From foundation that has gone orange along the jaw by lunchtime, to concealer sitting in the crease under the eye like a seam, to powder clinging to every dry patch on the cheek, this is what the Western rulebook does to skin over 40. Korean artists have been solving these exact problems for decades, and almost nobody in the West is copying us. I am 51 years old, 3 decades of doing faces backstage in Seoul, in bridal suites, under studio lights that show every pore a woman has. These are the 7 things we do on mature skin that Western artists almost never do, and the 5 mistakes that are quietly costing you 10 years. Number 6 is sitting in your bathroom drawer right now in a little black compact with a mirror in the lid. Number 7. Everything that goes on top of the base is a cream. Cream blush, cream bronzer, a touch of balm on the high points of the cheekbone. Powder blush on skin with any texture at all catches on every raised bit and every dry patch, and it sits above your base rather than joining it. A cream melts into the base you just pressed in and becomes part of the same layer, so the color looks like it is coming from under the skin instead of resting on it. Press it on with 2 fingers high on the cheek and blend up toward the temple rather than down toward the mouth. That direction alone lifts the whole face and it costs you nothing, and that is only number 7. We are counting down, so everything from here gets more important, starting with the thing in your handbag. Number 6. We barely powder at all, and here is that little black compact. The setting powder you have carried since the 90s, the one with the mirror in the lid, is doing more damage to your face now than it ever did at 30. Powder is a drying agent. On mature skin, it sinks into the texture around the eyes and mouth, goes chalky in the dry patches, and lays a flat gray cast over the whole face under any strong light. So we use almost none. A small amount, pressed with a puff, on the sides of the nose and the center of the chin. That is the entire job, and then the puff goes back in the drawer. The rest of the face stays a little dewy on purpose, because a face that catches light looks lifted, and a face that swallows light looks tired. Western artists powder everything to kill the shine. We keep the shine. That single choice is the difference you can see between 2 women sitting at the same restaurant table. Number 5. We conceal in spots. We do not conceal the whole face. The Western instinct on mature skin is more coverage everywhere, and it works backwards. Skin over 40 is uneven in specific places. Redness around the nose, pigmentation across the cheekbones, shadow under the eye. Those are 3 small areas, not a whole face. So the sheer base goes everywhere, and then we come back with a tiny brush and a very small amount of concealer on those spots only, pressed in with a warm fingertip. Everything in between stays thin. The result is skin that reads clear from across a room and still reads as skin from a foot away, which is the only test that matters when you are sitting across a table from somebody. But none of that survives if the base went on the wrong way, which is number 4. Number 4, we press it in, we do not sweep it around. The buffing brush is the enemy of skin over 40. Every circular pass drags product sideways into the fine lines around the eyes and the smile lines around the mouth, and then packs it down in there. So we use a cushion puff, a damp sponge, or the flat pads of the fingers, and we press straight down and lift straight off, into the skin, not across it. It takes longer. It looks like nothing is happening for the first 30 seconds and you will want to give up. Then the whole face evens out at once with no line anywhere, because nothing was ever dragged into one. Sounds fussy, I know. Wait until you see your own cheek at 6 in the evening. Number 3. We put the base on while the skin is still slightly damp. Watch a Western artist and she waits for the moisturizer to dry all the way down because dry skin is what stops foundation from moving. Watch a Korean artist and she goes in while the face is still tacky to the touch. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? That tackiness is exactly what lets the base melt down into the skin instead of forming a film across the top of it. Yes, you lose a fraction of coverage doing it this way. Make that trade every single time, because a sheer base that lives in your skin will always look younger at hour 6 than a full one lying over it. If your foundation has ever gone patchy across the cheekbone by mid-morning, that is your reason. And getting your skin into that state is number 2. Number 2. We spend 4 minutes on the skin before we open a single product. Not skincare the way you are thinking. Actual hands on the face. Warm palms pressed into the cheeks, along the jaw, up the sides of the neck. Essence patted in, never rubbed. A little balm worked into the dry patches around the nose and the corners of the mouth where everything always grabs. 4 minutes by the clock. What that does is bring blood up to the surface and give the base something soft to sink into instead of something tight and papery to sit on top of. Mature skin loses that plumpness on its own, and no foundation on earth can fake it once it is gone. But 4 minutes of your own warm hands will bring a good part of it back for the day. A Western artist gives this 30 seconds while she talks to you. 30 seconds against 4 minutes is the widest technique gap on this entire list, which leaves number one, and number one is not a technique at all. Number one, the base itself has to adapt to your skin instead of covering it. Every one of those 6 things I just gave you is damage control on a formula that was never built for your face. You can do all 6 of them perfectly and still watch your jaw go orange by lunchtime, because that is oxidation, and no amount of careful pressing will stop it. The pigment reacts with the oil and the air on your skin and shifts warmer as the day goes. And mature skin, which varies in tone far more across the face than young skin does, shows that shift worse than anything. Color-changing formulas were built for exactly this, and the Luxe color-changing foundation is the one that lives in my kit and the one I put in my own mother's hands. It goes on almost white, then it reads your skin and settles into your actual shade in about a minute. No tide line at the jaw, no orange at 4 o'clock. It stays thin and flexible enough to move when your face moves instead of splitting along the smile lines. And because the coverage builds instead of blanketing, it never reads as a mask. That is what women mean when they say they want your skin but better, and it is the closest thing to a Korean base you can buy without flying to Seoul. And I am not the only one saying it. The Luxe Color Changing Foundation is sitting at number one in foundation on Amazon right now, which for a formula this quiet is not a small thing. The link is in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen and it will take you straight there. Go and look at it while I finish, because the next 5 minutes are about what to stop doing. So that is the 7. Now the 5 I want gone. Counting down again, because the last one on this list is the reason so many women are still fighting their foundation every single morning. Mistake 5. When something goes wrong during the day, adding more on top of it. This is the one I see the most, in restaurant bathrooms and office mirrors everywhere. A patch goes dry at 2 o'clock, so more foundation goes over it. The nose gets shiny, so more powder goes on. Every layer added over a base that has already broken makes the texture worse. And by 6 in the evening, there is actual sediment sitting on that woman's face. Take a tissue, press it gently to lift the excess, work a little balm over the dry patch with a fingertip to bring it back to life, and then leave it alone. Taking product off is the only thing that works at that stage of the day. Mistake 4. Using a thick silicone primer to fill in your lines. It appears to work for about an hour. Then everything on top of it starts to slide because you have laid a slippery layer between your skin and your base, and by the afternoon, the whole thing has migrated straight into the lines you were trying to fill. Hydration is what actually holds a base down all day. One hydrating layer patted in properly will grip better than any pore filler on the shelf. Mistake 3. Baking under the eyes. Piling powder under the eye and letting it sit was invented for stage work and heavy camera flash, on skin in its 20s. That thin under eye area on a mature face has the least oil and the most movement of anywhere you own. And a thick pad of powder sitting there will crack into every fine line inside of 2 hours. It also throws a ghostly white cast in photographs, which is why you look washed out in every single picture from your daughter's wedding. Skip it entirely and nothing bad will happen. Mistake 2. Matching your foundation on your jaw. In a shop, under those lights. Department store lighting exists to sell product, not to show you your face. And your jaw is not your face color anyway. It is usually a little darker and a little redder than the skin you are actually trying to match. Test on your chest, in daylight, standing near a window, and let it sit for 20 minutes before you decide anything. Half the women walking around with a tide line at the jaw pick that shade sitting in a chair under a spotlight. Mistake 1. Buying anything with longwear, matte, and transfer-proof printed on the same bottle. Those 3 words together mean the formula is engineered to grip hard and stay rigid. Rigid is the one thing mature skin cannot tolerate because your face moves all day and a rigid film has nowhere to go except down into the lines. Those foundations were built for oily 20-year-olds in humid weather. Every time one gets sold to a woman of 50, somebody made a commission and nobody made her look better. Ask me how many of those bottles I have quietly thrown in a bin. So, what does all of that actually add up to? Look at the 7 again and you will notice something. 6 of them cost you nothing at all. 4 minutes of your own hands, a damp face, pressing instead of sweeping, spot concealing, almost no powder, creams on top. Only number 1 asks anything of you, and that is because technique will carry you a long way, but it will not carry you past a formula that is working against your face. And if you only take one thing out of all of this, take number 6. That little black compact you have carried in your handbag since the 90s, the one with the mirror in the lid. Put it in a drawer for a week and let your face catch the light again. You will be surprised how much younger that alone reads in a mirror at 4 in the afternoon.